what's up everybody? Welcome to the Rules of Engagement. Today's Thursday. That means you have Rules of Engagement. Of course, if it was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Friday, we would still have the Rules of Engagement. As always, I'll be your host, Nick, axslav ranish. As I mentioned, Rules of Engagement airs every weekday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Let's take a look at a couple of our themes of the week right now. Every Monday, we're going to have Talking Tactics. Every Tuesday is going to be Developing Fundamentals. Every Wednesday is going to be Mechanics of the Bizarre. Every Thursday is going to be Community Critique. Every Friday is going to be Self-Reflection. But actually, wait a minute. We're actually going to change things up just a little bit next week. So, Friday is going to be Self-Reflection. But next week, starting on Tuesday, we're going to actually have all of these be a new show. It'll just be analyzing the day before's match of the Winter Seasonal Showdowns. So, it's going to be all pro-game match analysis starting next week, and those are all going to be the amazing matchups we have that will air every day at 5 p.m. Eastern, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Sunday, every single day of the week starting next Monday. First one's going to be Rain versus Fantasy, Party versus Fantasy on Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern. Tuesday, instead of Developing Fundamentals next week, it is going to be an analysis of that match. So tomorrow's episode, we'll get a new graphic to show you guys about what's going on next week. But for now, it's Community Critique, and tomorrow is Self-Reflection at 7 p.m. Eastern. So jump into today's episode of Community Critique. Got 3 cool replays to look at. First one is going to be how to break a Protoss who's turtling playing as Zerg. And then next one is going to be how to deal with Swarm hosts playing as Protoss. And then we're going to talk about how to secure a win when you're ahead, how to make sure you don't choke and throw it away. With a Terran replay, that one's submitted by this Axel guy. He's kind of a cool guy. And then we're going to end up with a question and answer period at the end, of course. So let's jump into our first replay. It's going to be the how to break a Protoss turtle with Zerg. And a couple things we're going to look at. Well, first, let's say what he talked about. So it's been sent from JIY, and he's saying, I open with 3 hatch with 28 gas to go for Swarm hosts. Then I scout his double Stargate. Then the Protoss masses cannons and takes bases, while maxing out on Templar plus air. I have no idea what to do, frowny face. So a couple things we're going to look at is first, how do you react to double Stargate property? Then how to deal with a Protoss who's turtling or a player in general who's turtling. Then talk about some late game Zerg versus Protoss techniques you can use. So we'll first jump to this replay at the 8:30 mark. From the point of view of JIY, I think that's how you pronounce this. JIY. And we just see he has just scouted 2 Stargates. These are both Stargates, right? Boom, Stargate, Stargate. So he just scouted those while they were building. And when you scout double Stargate, and he was planning on going for Swarm hosts, he had the Infestation Pit, you really don't want to do Swarm hosts right off the bat because they can't really hit air. Although, to be honest, because they have no detection that fast, unless they get, I guess they get Oracle, so never mind. I was saying you could just use Swarm hosts anyway and just burrow them and kill them with the little minions. But anyway, so he decides to get the Hydra then. So, and it's important to get a Hydra then, some Spore Crawlers, just to make sure you're safe from the threat of that double Stargate air threat, right? You don't need to get it quite yet, but you do want to get some protection to make sure you're safe from the air threat. So I don't mind getting a few Hydras and some Spores and etc. But the other thing to consider is that going double Stargate doesn't just mean you have to worry about air. It also means your opponent is going to be very weak with their ground army. So there should be no way your opponent can take a 3rd base on you. Now, if you happen to not have many forces and you take it really fast, and they have a little circled in cannons, you can't deny this base anymore with Zerglings. But what you should do is you should plan to kill it soon. Because you know he's taking a faster base, you know he's going Stargate, and you know that means that he can't defend a 3rd base. The play he's doing just actually doesn't work if you are aggressive to go for the kill. So you may not be able to stop it with your speedings if he already has cannons surrounded with pylons when you get there. But given the fact that he is only probably on the single gateway, he's probably not even using it, there's no way he can have Colossus coming out, it's definitely a possibility for you to aim for a really strong timing attack. As you go forward here, 11 Hydras are being made. I'd like to see either those Hydras used or maybe combine them with some Infested Terrans to hit a timing, because if you think about this, you have 11 Hydras, what does he have? He's got 3 Voiders and 4 Phoenixes. Right? With the cannons, that can defend it. But as soon as you add in these Infestors, or if you got more Hydras, all you have to do is march those Infestors across the map, once you get these 6 out. And that army is an army that could easily shut down its third base. And this is something you should always do if your opponent goes double Stargate. You want to deny that third base if they try to take it very fast, because there's no way they can actually defend it. Right now, if you could have been about halfway across the map with this army. You just throw down what's this going to be? 24 infested Terrans, plus you've got 15 Hydrotus. There's no way this third base can defend against that type of force. And then, yeah, you use all your infestor energy, but guess what? It doesn't matter. You just run back across the map once you kill a third, and happy that you're significantly ahead. So the first thing is you don't want to let them get away with such a greedy opening. If you do, it's a good thing you're getting all these drones, because you're going to want to play for the late game. So now as we fast forward a little bit more, let's talk about how to deal with a Protoss who's obviously turning, right? You scouted him. He's massing a whole bunch of cannons, and he's getting a bigger army. You don't want to risk a frontal assault. So you've got a stronger army right here, but you're not confident that you can basically break their opponent's defense. Your next step should be to prevent them from ever taking another base. If your army is stronger, there should be no way you let them get another base. If you let them get it established and they can mass cannons, it's going to be much harder to deal with. But the idea is you do a great job, like what he's doing right here, scouting every single one of these potential expansions. Actually, it would be nice to have a Zerg over here too, but then one down here. But the Overseer just got the bottom right. So make sure that you know if they try to take another base, you walk across the map, kill it before it gets up, because you do not want to let them get that extra base. As you go forward here, the Zerg's doing a great job scouting it out, But then wait a minute, there's a probe around here. What's he doing? Your Zerg dies. Right now, you need to grab your army, all these guys, and just go and kill this fourth base. Kill it before it even gets too many photon cannons up. Because the longer you wait, I mean, there's a little bit of zealot harassment here. You can just send a few units, not your whole army. The longer you wait, the higher probability they'll have enough cannons that you can't do anything. So now all of a sudden, you're finally starting to get around to defend us. And this is where the problem comes, is that this is very, very, very hard defense to break, right? Now he's got, 10 cannons and a whole bunch of Tempests. You actually could still just walk across and kill this. I mean, with the amount of Cryptors you have, and if you throw out... Where's your Infestors? Wherever they went. Wherever the Infestors are, if you use... with the amount of Queens you have, the amount of Infestors, if you utilize those Infested... There they are. So if those were with your army, utilize the Infested Terrans and the Hydras and the Cryptors and Queens, you would absolutely plow the space. The longer you wait, the worse it gets. And why is that true? Because you have tuner food, your opponent has 165, and they can add more and more cannons, whereas you're going to have a harder time breaking up defense. So try to always deny these bases before they get up. You don't need to be too scared of Tempest, actually. If you just run in there, the sooner you run into, better, right? Because you don't want them to get too much of that death blow up. But you know what? If you happen to miss it, they get up a base, that's okay. Because you can do exactly what you're doing here. Great play, taking more bases, right? Just keep taking bases, build plenty of stack defense. I mean, you could even build more spines and swords if you wanted to. You don't really need them too badly, but keep taking more and more bases and get ahead of that terrain player in economy. They're going to keep trying to spread their little cannon line and take more and more bases. So you need to do the same. And as we go forward in this game, we're going to see it's going to get... Basically, you're in a situation now where you're like, okay, he's turtling. It's going to be a very late game situation. In fact, you probably realized that about 3 minutes ago. It was going to go for a very late game situation. So if you're in a super late game Zerg versus Protoss game, what you want to do is you want to use cost-efficient units. So right now, if we look at your army, right, you're maxed out, but your army is predominantly Corruptors, right? Queens are pretty cost-efficient because they're cheap. But these 21 Corruptors are very expensive units that are almost never really cost-efficient. They're a good, easy way to swarm over air units in a mid-game by just outmassing your opponent. But when it turns into cost efficiency, the units that are cost-efficient are going to be the spellcasters, right? They're going to be, let me do this from your viewpoint here. They're going to be the spellcasters, the queens, the infestors, the other units that give you free units like broodlords and swarm hosts. So what you want to be doing, instead of making all these corruptors, because corruptors are not going to work in a very, very late game situation, unless your opponent's going pure Tempest or something like that, you really want to get swarm hosts or broodlords to deal with the ground threat, right? And the ground threat here is just some High Templar, so you don't need that many ground units. But you still want some to deal with the High Templar and the photon cannon. So swarm hosts or broodlords, guess what? Against Tempest, look at the damage output. It's 39 to ground, it's 95 to massive air targets. The only massive air target Zerg has is a Broodlord. So I would not suggest getting too many Broodlords here. The Tempest will just destroy them. But it still means you probably want to get some Swarm Hosts, because Swarm Hosts will let you deal with the ground army without ever risking your Swarm Hosts, because you can do it from, you can launch Swarm Hosts from half the map away, right? So you can get rid of the Photon Cannons, get rid of the High Templar with the Swarm Hosts. Now you need to worry about the air component. The best way to deal with the air component is the mixture of Queens and Infestors. So these 41 Corruptors, that should be something like maybe 10 Swarm Hosts, right? So get rid of like 15 of those, because that food would be in Swarm Hosts. So 10 Swarm Hosts. And then the other 25 food Corruptors should all be in Infestors. 18 Queens is good. Keep those 18 Queens, but you should have about 30 Infestors, no Corruptors. 30 Infestors, maybe 10, 15 Swarm Hosts. And then what you can do is just spam a billion Infested Terrans, and you'll break the Tempest line. Just keep spamming forward, forward, forward. Accompany those with, of course, the Swarm Hosts, sending in all their little locusts to deal with all the Photon Cannons. And you can destroy the Protoss late game army. Even all these Photon Cannon placements, you can keep killing them with Locusts and Infested Terrans. And even if you use up, like, your 15 Swarm Hosts kill only one cannon with every Locust wave, you know what? That's one cannon every wave. It's costing you nothing, right? So you got to get those late game units, which are going to be the Spellcasters, the Swarm Hosts, the Broodlords. In this case, avoid Broodlords when there's this many Tempests. So as the game goes on, you just can get slowly choked and choked out, because the Tempest can always hide behind Photon Cannons, right? So you've got to find a way to get rid of the Photon Cannons. The way to do that is to just kill them with Infested Terran Bombs or Swarm Host Volleys. And you can just go wherever the air army isn't. So when the air army's here, and you know it is because you just saw it, the air army is slow. If you have a Nidus network, you can Nidus your Swarm Host Infestors here. Drop a whole bunch of Infested Terrans over here. Drop them over here, you know? If you can find a way to Nidus in the back, you can even nail this base or nail a third, right? Wherever you can get your units, just send them there and pick away their defenses if they're turning, because you have the ability to trade energy for units. And so if they're going to sit back and do nothing for 20 minutes, you should go ahead and take advantage of that by constantly getting those free trades. So as the game goes out from here, it's going to pick you apart to death, and it's going to be like a little slow death. And this is one of those games that a lot of people really kind of have, where, you know, the whole game was played very solidly by the Zerg player here, JIY. JIY has played a very solid, a strong game. You know, Masters level play elites, I would say, overall on the macro, probably even higher. You know, mid. I can't. I mean, it could be a couple things, but definitely a very high ranked master player. But you can't let the Protoss just sit back when you have these abilities like the Infestor and Swarm Hosts to get all those free kills and just trade your energy away for Photon Cannon. So I guess that to sum up the replay, the way to deal with a turning Protoss player is basically this: is if they want to turtle, you should be happy, because the longer the game goes on, the longer you can get free unit trades. Don't be afraid of Photon Cannons. They're actually not that strong, and no matter how strong they are, they cost money, whereas Locusts, Infested Terrans do not. So don't be afraid to add on some Swarm Hosts. Don't be afraid to get a ton of Infested Terrans, throw all their energy out. The one thing you should be afraid to be is be stuck on one of these three units in the late game: Roaches, Hydralisks, Corruptors. Those are the three Zerg units that you do not want to be stuck on in the super late game. So what happened here is you just got stuck on a composition that was predominantly Corruptors, and Corruptors are not a good late game unit. So it wraps up this segment about how to deal with Protoss in the late game as Zerg. We'll take a short break and be on to our next segment, which is going to be Protoss replay versus a Zerg, talking about how can you deal with the Swarm Hosts in the early and the mid game.